Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Cutting Edge Figure Skating Podcast. My name is Kim Dunaway, and in this episode, I will be continuing my Road to Milano series by previewing the women's event at the upcoming 2026 Olympics. This field can be as wide open as the men's field is. I feel like there's a clear dividing line between 7 ladies and the rest of the field. There's still lots of opportunities for there to be any number of podium finishes for the women. The women has really changed dramatically in this past Olympic quad, not just because the Russian ladies were not here and able to compete in this Olympic quad, but the injection of Alyssa Liu into last year, also with Amber Glenn getting a consistent triple axel and really transforming her career, I feel like has added a lot of excitement to the women's fields that we didn't have at the beginning of the quad. And it's been really nice to see. Let's start off talking about the U.S. ladies who have been deemed the Blade Angels after Charlie's Angels. I feel like they could have come up with something better, but okay. This team is arguably one of the strongest teams that the U.S. has ever sent. You can look at a couple of other teams that have similar amounts of hardware to these ladies. If you look at the 92 team that had Christy Yamaguchi, Tanya Harding, and Nancy Kerrigan, each of those ladies came in as world medalists. 2 of them, in Tanya Harding and Christy Yamaguchi, came in with national titles. At that Olympics, they finished 1st, 3rd, and 4th, with Christy winning, Nancy taking 3rd, and Tanya finishing just off the podium in 4th. At the 1998 games in Nagano, you had Michelle Kwan, Tara Lipinski, and Nicole Bobek. Each of those ladies had a national title, and each of those ladies had a world medal. And of course, they went 1-2 with Michelle and Tara. Nicole was unfortunately injured and finished, I believe, 17th at that Olympics. And then if you go to 2002, you had the team of Michelle Kwan, Sarah Hughes, and Sasha Cohen. Both Sarah and Michelle had world medals. Michelle at that point had multiple world medals and world titles, and she was the only one of the 3 that had won national titles. But Sarah finished 3rd at the nationals that year and won the whole thing. That was just showing the depth of ladies figure skating for the U.S. at that time period. And of course, Michelle also got on the podium at 3rd, and Sasha finished 4th. So again, a 1st, 3rd, and a 4th showing for that team. So what do these ladies do? I expect for at least one of them to get on the podium. Alyssa and Amber come in with the most scoring potential of the 3. Amber, because she has a triple axel. She does her triple axel not just in the free skate, but she also does it in the short program, which gives her the ability to score close to 80 points, which we've really only seen Alyssa score close to 80, and then we've seen Kaori Sokomoto, who I'll talk about in a minute, score 80 points in the short program. If she hits all of those, she has a short program to Madonna. It's a real banger, like a prayer. Alyssa is repeating her last year's short program to Promise, which was such a great vehicle for her. It has done really well for her as well. She does a triple lutz, triple loop combo in the second half of her program, which gives her a lot of points as well and gives her the ability to score a lot higher. Isabeau's scoring potential is a little bit lower. Over the past 4 years, her technical difficulty in her programs has decreased a little. She used to do a triple lutz, triple loop in the second half of her program. She now does her combination in the first half of the program. In the second half, you get a little bit of a bonus. And she also doesn't do a lutz loop combo anymore. She's now doing a triple flip, triple toe combo, which is still a good combination for her. Just puts her base value below the other 2 American ladies here. Isabeau is a world medalist. She won the silver medal at the 2024 World Championships. Alyssa won a bronze medal at the 2022 Worlds and then won Worlds last year in 2025. Amber doesn't have a world medal, but she did win Grand Prix final in the 24-25 season and has won the most Grand Prix titles of these 3. So all of them have the ability to win here. They all have the ability to go 1, 2, 3. It's going to be a tough challenge with the Japanese contingent and some of the European ladies that we're going to see. But I would be surprised if at least one of them does not get on the podium. And that would break what is now a 20-year drought since the last U.S. lady medaled at the Olympics, and that was Sasha Cohen, and her silver medal at the 2006 Games in Torino was also in Italy. Gracie Gold was very close at the 2014 Games. She was fourth, but we haven't had a team, like I said, this strong really in a very, very long time, and it's very exciting to have a number of ladies here who have that potential. It makes the women's field more exciting as a whole. And if you take Team USA and you add in Team Japan, you have really the strongest contingent in the world. Last year at Worlds, the top 6 was those 3 ladies I mentioned from the US, as well as 3 ladies from Team Japan. 2 of them that we'll see here, and 1 who was injured and unable to make the team this year. If you think Team USA is pretty deep in their ladies right now, Team Japan is insane. Every year they've had a different lady, at least one different lady, make the world team, just how strong they are. This year it was Ami Nakai, who is new to seniors. She competed in juniors previously. She also comes armed with a triple axel that she is doing in both programs. Her triple axel is less consistent, especially in the short program, than Amber's is. She recently was just at 4 continents. She did not win 4 continents. She actually lost to her Japanese teammate, Yuna Aoki, who actually won't be here. Because like I said, Team Japan is so incredibly deep. But she has the ability to score obscene numbers. Ami Nakai does. If we look at this season, the 2 highest scores that have been put up are by Kaori Sakamoto and by Ami Nakai. They have almost the exact same season's best score, over 227 points. Kaori is not armed with a triple axel, but her quality of her elements is very high. She's someone who doesn't get a lot of under rotations on her elements. She gets very high scores for her spins and footwork and those other elements of the program as well. And she gets the highest PCS of everyone here. Alyssa Liu also has gotten pretty high PCS in the last 12 months, but largely it's been Kaori who's really been the premier skater of this Olympic quad. She won 3 world titles in a row, 22, 23, 24, and was second to Alyssa Liu last year at Boston Worlds. She's also coming in as the only returning Olympic medalist. She was bronze at last Olympics in Beijing. And that whole crazy fiasco with Kamila Valieva and the failed drug test. And she, to me, would be the favorite coming into this event as well. She has just nerves of steel at times. She has made mistakes, but her ability to score 80 points in the short program and 150 points in the free skate is places we haven't seen anybody else score. Alyssa Liu has gotten the closest, and with the triple axel that both Ami Nakai have and Amber Glenn also puts them in that category as well. Their other Japanese teammate is Mona Chiba. She is also a world medalist. She was 3rd at Worlds last year behind Alyssa and Kaori. She also doesn't have any fancy Ultra C elements, no triple axel, no triple Lutz, triple loop, but again, has very high quality of her elements. Sometimes has questionable rotations on her jumps, but doesn't get calls like we're going to see with some of the other ladies who are not kind of in this tier. She has 2 very different programs. Her short program is to Donna Summer. It's a repeat of last year's program, and her free skate is to Romeo and Juliet. Judges always really like her. You expect her to be in the mix. She's coming off of not a great free skate at 4 continents. At times, she always seems to have one free skate somewhere. She just doesn't perform as well. I think she's gotten that out of the way, and I expect to see her at her best here in Milano. Moving on from those top 6 ladies, if there's anybody who's likely to break the hold of those 6, it is the wild card, Adelia Petrosian of Russia. As I mentioned, Russia has been banned not due to the positive drug test from last Olympics, but due to the war in Ukraine. The ISU decided that due to that violated a rule that they have because it happened right after the last Olympics, and they opted to ban both Russia and Belarus from competing. And they have not competed internationally in the last 4 years, except for the Skate to Milano event that was in September. That was the Olympic qualifying event. Russia was allowed to submit some athletes for consideration to be represented as neutral athletes at this Olympic Games. They submitted one dance team, one pair team, and 2 single skaters, a female and a male. Both of the paired disciplines were rejected because they had ties to some of the Putin rallies, but the 2 single skaters were accepted. So we will see Adelia Petrosian at these games. She did win the Skate to Milano event in the fall, barely, just a little bit over Luna Hendricks and Anastasia Gubanova. She didn't have any Ultra C elements at that time and looked very, I thought, pedestrian at the time, very beatable. Since then, she has added a triple axel into her short program and plans to do either a triple axel and a quad in the free skate or 2 quads in the free skate, which would put her base value above any of the other ladies at this competition and could make her the favorite going in. She's a big unknown because we just haven't seen her internationally. She did win Russian nationals, but it was controversial. A lot of people felt like she should not have won, that she was propped up knowing that she was going to be the Russian representative at the Olympic Games. Don't know how consistent those Ultra C elements are for her currently. And because she doesn't have as much international experience at the senior level, how are the nerves of this event going to affect her? We really don't know. Sometimes in Russia, because of the competition there, their domestic events are more nerve-wracking for them than the international ones are. So she could be well prepared in that sense. And she did compete internationally at the junior level. But this is something that she's never experienced before in her life. And it's going to be interesting to see how that affects her. The program components are not going to be where we're going to see some of the US ladies and some of the Japanese ladies. And her programs are kind of that same emptiness in that we have seen from a lot of the Russian ladies in the past. And without that reputation from the past 4 years, she's not going to get the benefit of the doubt in that department like we saw Trusova and Sherbakova and Valieva and other Russians before them get in the past. So she's really going to have to land and nail those jumps in order for her to be in the conversation. But if she lands a triple axel in the short program, she's probably going to be in that final group. And those 2 quads are definitely going to put her in contention, not just for a medal, but potentially to win. So she is a huge wild card because we don't know exactly what we're going to get, but on paper, she could definitely win. She's skating to Michael Jackson in her short program, and then her free skate is a very different vibe, more of like a Spanish kind of vibe. All right, let's talk about Team Europe. So we've got 3 ladies here who could contend for medals. All of them bring a lot more inconsistency to the table than what we have seen from Team Japan or Team USA. So let's talk about Nina Petrokina from Estonia. She has won the last 2 European titles, including last month. She has been injured a lot of the last 2 years and hasn't been able to compete a lot in the Grand Prix. And when she's been at Worlds, she's been coming right off an injury a lot of times. She has done very well when she has been able to compete, but we just haven't seen her compete a lot. The way that she competed at Europeans, where she got over a 70 in her short program and scored over 140 in her free skate, puts her in that medal stratosphere. In order to medal at the Olympics in the ladies, you're probably going to have to score over 210 points. I think that's kind of a good benchmark. It may take over 220, depending on how some of these ladies skate, but it definitely 210. There are 7 ladies that have scored over 210 points this season. That's Kaori Sakamoto, Ami Nakai, Alyssa Liu, Mona Chiba, Nina Petrokina, Amber Glenn, and Isabel Levito. Adelia Petrosian scored 209.63. You could really put her in that category as well. So that looks like 8 ladies that have scored 210 just this season. Lifetime, there are 12 ladies who have scored over 210 points in their career. And I'll talk about a couple of those here in a second. But that puts Nina in that conversation to be able to potentially medal if she could duplicate the performances that she did at Europeans. But it's something we haven't seen her do before at the world level for sure. Anastasia Gubanova is another one that's kind of a bit of a wild card. She has a ton of potential. She's been at the Olympics before. She was representing Georgia 4 years ago at the last Olympics. But she, too, very inconsistent and at times prone to under rotation calls, which really brings her score down. She's also not as strong in the other elements of her program. Her spins, her step sequence, she doesn't consistently get level 4s like you'll see some of those other ladies, and that also brings her score down. But she is one that does have over 210 points as a personal best. This season, no, but in her career, she has. And so she has that potential to be in that conversation. Laura Naki-Gutmann has really come on the last couple of seasons, really struggled in the first couple of seasons of the quad. But in the last couple of years, we've seen some real strides from her. She's gotten on the podium at Grand Prix for the first time and got onto the podium at Europeans for the first time last month. She'll be at home in Italy. She's going to need to skate her best, which she doesn't have some of the big combinations that you're going to see from some of the other ladies. So the content that she does have, it's really imperative that she doesn't make any mistakes. But if she does skate clean with a little boost from that crowd, she could put herself in that conversation. But for her, it's going to be really important that she skate the short program well. She just doesn't have the ability to really come from behind like some of the other ladies can. If we look at Team Belgium, these are 2 ladies who have a ton of potential, but have both been hampered with injuries the last couple of seasons, and we haven't seen them score their best that they have scored in the past. Luna Hendricks is a world medalist also. She is also a European champion. She had an ankle surgery last season that kept her out of the entire 24-25 season. Came back this year, had to qualify her own spot to the Olympics at the Olympic qualifier, was able to do that and skated well, but that's really the best performance that she's had. This year, it's been very uneven for her. She is one that in her career has put up over 220 points as a career best for her. And she is one that in this season has not scored over 210 points yet. But as I said, she definitely has the potential if she can find that form and if she is physically well enough. Nina Pinzaroni is a beautiful skater. Arguably, you could say she has the best artistry in this entire field. Her programs are always just perfectly choreographed for her by her coach, Benoit. But she is plagued by under rotations quite heavily and has not been able to find the podium in the last couple of seasons, where she had a lot of success in her first full senior season where she was at Grand Prix final and medaled at Europeans. But if she were able to fully rotate her jumps, could put herself in that conversation. I don't see it, but we'll see. If we look at South Korea, they have done the opposite of what the U.S. has done. At the beginning of the quad, they were one of the strongest teams out there, almost kind of like Team Japan in a way. Hyein Lee was silver medalist at the 2023 World Championships. Cheon Kim, who's not even on the team here, was bronze medalist at the 2024 World Championships. They had 3 ladies in that final group at that 2024 World Championships. Hyein Lee, who's pictured here and will be at these games. Cheon Kim, who medaled at that World Championships and did not make the team here. And then Young Yu, who was at the last Olympics, had a triple axel at the last Olympics, was top 6 or 7th at the last Olympics, and did not make the team here. There's a lot of drama that happened with Young Yu and Hyein Lee last season, where they were both suspended by the Korean Federation for their role in posting pictures and some sexual harassment of another male skater. Hyein Lee appealed her suspension, was allowed to compete towards the end of last season, but after her world medal, she just has not been at that same level whatsoever. She has a really nice artistry, always has really beautiful programs, but has struggled with her jumps mightily. This season, she really has had just analysis paralysis. She came out with a Carmen program, and then she switched back to last year's Notre Dame program. She was doing a different short program. Then she went back to a short program from 2 years ago called Sirens. I really don't know what she's planning to do at these Olympics. I don't consider her to be in the medal conversation, but there was a time when, like I said, when Team South Korea was considered definitely a big contender. Even Yelim Kim won a Grand Prix en route to Grand Prix final a few seasons back, and she actually retired in the middle of last season. The other skater who's going to be accompanying Hyein Lee here is Jia Shin, who had a tremendous junior career up until last season. Her last year in junior, she was much more uneven. Coming into this year, was really expected to be one of the contenders. Ami Nakai really sort of took that spot from her. She's had a couple of brilliant performances that has shown us what she's capable of. Won at a challenger and even had a pretty decent free skate at 4 continents a couple weeks ago, but just hasn't been consistent, hasn't been able to put 2 solid programs together in one competition. But if she were to catch lightning in a bottle, she could be there. She has really fantastic artistry for a brand new senior skater and does have really nice jumps if she could land them. Other notables that I will mention are Sofia Samoldakina is a former Russian skater. She opted to switch to compete for Kazakhstan. Because of that, had to sit out a year, had to work really hard just to get into the Grand Prix conversation this year. Did get a silver medal at the one Grand Prix that she was at. Couldn't get a visa to go to a second Grand Prix when she was called up for that. So she hasn't competed with these ladies as much. She was at Worlds last year. She has shown flashes at times. She is one that used to have some Ultra C elements, but we haven't seen them from her since she has been competing for Kazakhstan. She is coached by Rafael Arturian, who coached Nathan Chen last Olympics. She's a long shot for sure, but definitely somebody to watch. Kimi Rapon from Switzerland had such a brilliant start to this Olympic quad. She grew a lot. She's had a lot of injuries and just has barely been able to get back in time to even make it to the Olympics. Don't really expect her to be a factor in this Olympics. But again, someone to watch. If she sticks around for another 4 years and is able to find some health, she could be in a conversation for Olympic medals and world medals in a future Olympic quad. And then Maddie Schizas of Canada, again, not in the medal conversation, but Canada has a little bit more firepower coming out of that country than what they've had in the last really 8 years. And for her to have a good showing here and really to propel herself into a top 10 finish at Worlds would help them get another spot for Worlds, which would help them out a lot. So I would love to see her have 2 good performances here. She went back to an old short program, to the Lion King, that she likes a whole lot. And then her free skate is to Butterfly Lovers. All right, so the rest of the competitors that we're going to see here, Victoria Safonova, she's from Belarus, but she will be competing as a neutral athlete. Olga Mikutina of Austria, Alexandra Fagan, Maria Sanouk of Israel, Riyang Zhang of China, Ida Karhunen of Finland, who I enjoy watching her so much. She could be a real bright spot. I really like her Swan Lake free skate that she does. Lorraine Shield of France will be more of a factor for France in the team event, although I don't expect France to finish in the top 5 there. Kristen Spors of Great Britain. And another notable, it will be Ekaterina Kurakova of Poland. She doesn't have the jumps that the other ladies have and probably won't be near the top 10 or 15, but she's always a crowd favorite and definitely someone to catch if you can catch her programs. Julia Sauter of Romania and then Livia Kaiser of Switzerland round out the 29 ladies that will be competing in the women's event, and 24 of them will go on to compete in the free skate. Predictions. This is so difficult because I feel like the podium is going to be made of those 7 skaters that I mentioned: Team USA, Team Japan, and Adelia Petrosian. While those other ladies that I mentioned could certainly be in the conversation, I'd probably have the most confidence in Nina Petrokina, but I really think the podium is going to be made up of those 7 ladies: American, Japanese, maybe Petrosian. I'm going to predict that Cowrie wins the Olympic gold medal. She has been the skater for the past 4 years. And while the Olympics is not a lifetime achievement award, it's not what you get for 4 years of hard work. You've got to skate the programs on the day. But she just has the mental space, I feel like, to do it. Alyssa is another one. She doesn't miss in practice. She doesn't miss in competition. I'd be surprised to see her make a mistake here. And I think if she skates 2 clean programs, she's absolutely going to be on the podium, which leaves the third spot between Amber, Ami Nakai, Mona Chiba, Isabella Vito, and Adelia Petrosian. I just don't know enough about Petrosian. I feel like not putting her on the podium feels somewhat irresponsible. But I just don't know how she's going to respond to the pressure. And I'm going to go with, I just don't know, between Amber and Mona Chiba and Ami Nakai too. I'm going to say Amber. I'm going to say we get a podium of Cowrie, Alyssa, and Amber. We'll see. What do you think? It's so fun to predict, and there's so much could happen in the next 2 weeks. We're going to see some of these ladies in the team event, and that might give us a little bit of a clue as to how all this is going to go down as well. But I just think the experience of Cowrie and Alyssa, they've both been in Olympic Games previously. I just can't see a podium that doesn't have those 2 ladies on it. And Amber just seems to be in a headspace better than she's done before, and I just feel like she does enough to get it done. All right. I have one more preview to do, and that is the team event. I've been trying to wait and see who gets announced for the team event. I may have to do it just a little bit blind, and that's okay. We've sort of got little inklings here and there that this person is doing the short. Probably won't know about the free skate. I'm pretty sure it doesn't really matter who does a free skate. I'm going to go back and look, but I think historically, whoever has been leading after the short program segment has won. I don't think that there's been any movement after that, but I'm going to go back and check my memory on that to be sure. But we've got one more preview coming on that. Hope you guys were able to catch Glitter and Gold. It's just 3 episodes on Netflix. It was such a fun look into Piper and Paul and Maddie and Evan. And, you know, you get to hear from Guillaume and Laurence as well, too. But if you have thoughts on that, I might do an episode on that at some point as well. All right, you can find me on all the socials at Ice Skate Podcast. Make sure that you like the video. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast on your podcatcher or on YouTube. And like I said, let me know what you're thinking for the women's event. All right, guys, thanks for listening. Have a great rest of your week.